CD 5. Intermediate Listening Comprehension. Understanding and Recalling Spoken English. 3rd edition. By Patricia Dunkel and Phyllis L. Lim. Published by Thomson Heinley, a part of the Thomson Corporation. Copyright 2006. Unit 3. Focus on Classification, Definition. Chapter 9. Power, the kinds people use and abuse. Part 2. Listening. Page 56. A. Initial listening. Now let's listen to a talk about the basic forms of power. It may help you to concentrate on the talk if you close your eyes while you listen. Just relax and listen carefully.
John Mack, who is the author of a book about power, says that the need for a sense of personal power is one of the primary forces in human life. On the other hand, he also says that the feeling of powerlessness is one of the most disturbing of human emotions, a feeling to be avoided at all costs. Just what is power? Psychologists define power as the ability to determine or to change the actions or behavior of other people. Psychologists are trying to identify different kinds of power so that they can better understand how people use these different kinds of power to gain control over other people. They are trying to understand how people manipulate other people for good and evil purposes. Psychologists have identified 5 basic types of power, and I'd like to talk about each of these briefly in the next few minutes. The first type of power is called information power. Some psychologists believe that information power is one of the most effective types of power and control. The person who has information that other people want and need but do not have is in a position of power. Why is this? Well, most people like to receive and have information. Having information increases a person's own sense of power. People who provide information can manipulate those who do not have information. Often, when people receive information, they do not know that they are being manipulated by those who provided the information. The psychologist named Edwards says, for example, that newspapers provide a lot of information to their readers, and that these newspaper readers generally believe the information they read. Readers do not question the accuracy of the reports about world events they read in the newspapers. A second type of power is called referent power. For example, a person may want to behave like the members of a particular group, such as a soccer team or a group of classmates, or a person may identify with and want to be like a certain teacher, a friend, or say a rock star. If you identify with another person, that person has power over you, and that person can influence your actions and behavior. Many people imitate and are controlled by the people they identify with. Let me give you a sad example of the use of this type of power for evil purposes. In the 1970s in Jonestown, Guyana, more than 900 people committed suicide when their religious leader, Jim Jones, told them to kill themselves. They did what he told them to do because he had referent power over them. They identified with him, they believed him, and they did what he told them to do. More recently, a man named David Koresh controlled the lives and destinies of a small community of men, women, and children in Waco, Texas. Most of the people in his community died in a fire, along with their leader, during a confrontation with U.S. government agents. A third kind of power is classified as legitimate power. Government officials, according to Edwards, have a lot of legitimate power. When the government decides to raise taxes or make people go to war, most people will do what their government officials tell them to do. One psychologist reported on an experiment that showed an example of this type of power. In this experiment, the researcher asked people on the street to move away from the bus stop. When he was dressed as a civilian, few people moved away from the bus stop. When the researcher was dressed as a guard, most people moved away from the bus stop. The guard's uniform seemed to give the researcher a look of legitimate power. The fourth kind of power is called expert power. An expert is a person who is very skilled in some area, such as sports, or who knows a lot about something, such as computers. Most people are impressed by the skills or knowledge of an expert. Some of these experts use their skills at playing sports or knowing about computers to gain power and influence and to gain money or admiration, according to Edwards. In other words, they use their expertise to gain power. Finally, reward or coercive power is used by people who have the power to reward or punish another person's actions or behavior. Giving a reward will change people's behavior because it offers people a chance for gain. Giving a punishment may or may not cause the people to do what the powerful person wants them to do, but the changes may not last for a long time. The person who uses coercive power may also have to carefully watch that the less powerful person does in fact change his or her actions or behavior. To sum up then, power may be gained in many ways. It may come from having information that other people want or need. It may come from being a referent for other people to identify with or to imitate. It may come from having an official or legitimate position of authority. It may come from having skills or expertise, or it may come from having the power to reward or punish people. We all exercise one or more of these various kinds of power over other people, and other people will try to exercise one or more of these kinds of power over us throughout our lives.